Perfect.
Okay, so we're from Jung Relations. My name is Ebba Haltegren. I'm head of creative at Jung, and this is my colleague Marita.
Yeah, I work as a creative as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, and Jung is a creative PR agency based here in Stockholm. And we've been to South by Southwest for several years, and we almost always put together some kind of talk. This talk we're going to present to you today is really on the CreativeMornings theme of courage. So it has a slightly different variant. We're not going to just tell you everything we heard for a week, but instead we're going to sort of be on topic and on theme.
Yeah. So, I don't know, how many of you have been to South by Southwest before? So, yeah, there's a few in the room. I mean, I think it's just worth mentioning that since this is in the US, it's a very, very strong US angle on everything at South by Southwest. Of course, there's speakers from other parts of the world, but still I would say it's a lot about American politics and American policies as well. And as you probably know, Austin has this slogan called "Keep Austin Weird," and this is probably the weirdest we ever saw Austin, in our opinion. Another way of calling South by Southwest, naming South by Southwest, is the Nerd Coachella, which I think is pretty spot on. I mean, there's film festivals, there's music festivals, there's education programs, gaming and interactive sessions as well. Approximately there's like 80,000 participants, and into the interactive part there's 30,000 participants. And there's a lot of seminars going on at the same time. So about at 11 o'clock I think we benchmarked that there is about 97 seminars, which this really means that you have a very strong feeling of missing out, because how to choose. And some of the programming is really good. Some of the programming is sponsored, and it could be, it could be good as well. But we went to a few of those by mistake, and it was more like, come here, listen to this thing, and you will get cocktails afterwards, and you can win a hotel trip to Las Vegas, blah blah blah, everything inclusive. So you have to be very selective. So yeah.
So we were at the interactive part, and in the interactive part they have different themes that they work with. So you can go to South by Southwest and just listen to sports, or you can just listen to health or intelligent future. So before, maybe South by Southwest was just about startups and the tech sector, but today it isn't. It's really the whole society and how that works with an interactive media. We listen to a lot of speakers. Here are some of the biggest names that we're going to quote for you today. We have the founder of Reddit, we have Bernie Sanders, we have Elon Musk, Lena Dunham, and also Simone Sanders, which was Bernie Sanders' campaign manager or press secretary during his campaign. They're not related, but they have the same name. And we also have Melinda Gates, who was there talking about the Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation. So the three themes that we're going to talk about today is the system failure, and how South by Southwest used to be this place where everything was happy-go-lucky, but it really isn't today. Of course, fake news, it's a huge topic and it is here. And then how can we turn this around? What people do we see are talking about okay, everything isn't what we want it to be, but what can we do to change this? How do we get the courage to stand up for ourselves? So let's jump into system failure. Shit is fucked up and bullshit. This was actually the first slide of Ezra Klein's talk, and he works at Vox Media. And what it really is about is that the tech sector, and specifically maybe social media, has during several years always talked about if we just connect people and if we get people to talk to each other, everything will be fine, everything will be great. And then this year comes along and everybody's oh, it doesn't feel great, it doesn't feel even fine, it feels really shitty. What did we do wrong? What went wrong in this system? And at South by that's really what a lot of people were coming back to, like what was wrong, how did it become this way, and like maybe how can we fix it. And what it really is that the system is now running the people, where we've built like social media and different apps to connect to each other, but then we built in different incentives that actually were not about like connecting people and making us feel more connected and feel like deeper, nicer emotions. It really, the incentives drove a completely different feeling, which created this deep wrongness.
Yeah. I think this is a very good starting point. This quote by Chuck Prince, 2007, CEO of Citigroup. When the music stops in terms of liquidity, things will be complicated, but as long as music is playing, you've got to get up and dance. We're still dancing. This was a quote, and a couple of weeks later, the whole subprime thing exploded. He got fired. A lot of people lost their homes, the whole scope of this. So this is a very good example how you can rationalize an incentive. Just by sticking your head into the ground, it's working perfectly fine. I can see the signals all around in my industry, but hey, it's working, I'm making money, why should I care? And there's some industries that people have very, very firm opinions about and not equally positive. So just a couple of years ago, I think a lot of people had great opinions about media and social media, but something has really, really happened. And I think the whole incentive in the industry has changed. And I think we can read that daily here in Sweden, in Dagens Nyheter. You can see it all the time. There's a massive critique happening all over. And we're really pulled into a certain behavior that, like Ebba said before, doesn't really feel quite right. And if you look at this matrix, I think this matrix is a great one. It's just showing how you can lead that in a way. If you talk about the government, the problem, no one can agree on anything. Everyone is out to make each other fail. The incentive, a zero-sum competition for power, where the gain is your loss and vice versa. The rationalization, everything the other side wants is bad. If you look at media, clickbait, polarization, reactiveness, and speed over depth, the incentive is traffic and engagement, and the rationalization is covering what shares is covering what matters. Really, if that's where media is going, we're having a big problem. So the whole idea behind this is that if we make decisions and then rationalize them, are we sure the decisions we are making are the right ones and for the right reasons? And I think a lot of people are starting to realize this and are getting pretty much upset about it as well. So I think with the help of advocacy in all parts of society, there will be a change, and I think there will be a demand for more diversified business models. This is Ezra Klein, which Ebba quoted earlier. He's editor-at-large at Vox News. And what he's seeing is that, unfortunately, it doesn't really seem that the tech companies are changing. They will keep on dancing, just like they did on Wall Street. And one big reason for this is that if you belong to an interest group, you are more likely to have a clouded judgment, because you're in your own bubble and you only have people who say yes to you, and you share each other's opinions. So when companies measure things, they are not necessarily measuring the right thing. So it depends. You get the answer the way you ask the question. And also in the tech industry, I mean, there's a lot of fiddling going on in the feeds as well. They keep on changing stuff, to make it better for us consumers or better for the industry. We have, algorithms that changes all the time. Some of them, makes us feel that we really, really have to go back more often to this place, or loading place or whatever, this app. So fake news, for example, spread 6 times faster on Twitter than anywhere else. And a lot of speakers at this seminar, politicians, they were asked the question, where do you get your news from in the morning when you wake up? And probably 99% of the seminars we attended, everyone was like, Twitter. That's our first source of news. It's a pretty scary thought. And also, I think, don't mistake traffic for that people actually like what you're doing. And I think that's something, when we work with our clients at Jung, that's something we try to talk them to, because clients are usually super happy. It's like, woo, wow, we got so many followers. And it's like, do you have the right followers for the right reasons? So more and more, I think the discussion is going, what we're talking about is how loyalty is being, that's what we should aim for in the future.
And Tristan Harris was not a person that was actually at South by Southwest, but he was quoted by other people. And he's a founder of Time Well Spent, which is a company and an organization that strives to make our online experience better. Because before he was a product manager at Google, so he knows what the tech companies are doing with their products to make us stay on the platform longer or never want to leave. So he said, we have to also realize that we're being micromanaged by these platforms without even knowing it. And I don't know, if you guys, I guess you all have Instagram, right? Yeah. So when you open your app, you see that you got a notification okay, I have some more likes. So you open your app, and then in the right-hand corner, this little red sign comes up and says how many likes you got. Have you noticed how you always have to wait a millisecond for it to come up, to pop up? That's not because it's loading. It's oh, how many likes was it? It was 1, 2, 3. It's because it's actually, they know that if you have to wait for something, you're going to want it more. So they make you wait that millisecond, because you're oh, okay, 3 likes, oh, perfect, thank you. So that's what they're doing. It's like drugs for your brain. Same thing with Netflix and YouTube. It's actually harder for me to leave the platform and stop watching something than it is to just sit there and let the next video just keep on playing. Instagram and Twitter and Facebook all have this continuous feed. And that's because they want you to feel whenever I leave the platform, I will be missing something. That feeling, as going to South by, the FOMO feeling is always there when you're on those platforms. And I think Snapchat is the most, they're not even trying to hide this. I mean, if you have a friend and you're Snapchatting and you're sending 1 snap a day, you get this little fire. Have you gotten that one? Yeah. I mean, and then you're oh my God, I have to send 1 more snap every day because I need to keep having the fire thing on my profile. It's so important to me. It's really? Is it that important? But it keeps people really coming back to just aim to gain points and gain emojis because they did a good job on hanging on the platform.
I think we all recognize this, that you've been watching a damn good HBO series, and thanks to autoplay, you're really tired in the morning. And I mean, Reed Hastings, he's totally honest as the CEO of Netflix that their main competition is sleep, and indeed it is. And I mean, in tech, attention is currency. But it has also led to a few things that we probably do not want. I mean, scientists are seeing that we have much harder to disconnect. We have increased stress levels, anxiety, less sleep, lower self-esteem. You can especially see that by younger kids, reduced empathy, and also diminished thinking. So this is a pretty scary scenario, and I found it pretty interesting to be at this South by Southwest tech thing, and all the people in the industry were actually addressing these facts. So there's this guy called Brian Solis. He's a digital analyst and author, And he had a talk called "It's Time to Take Tech Back," which was really interesting. He's also written articles in a lot of digital media about digital Darwinism. And what this means is that we're in an era where technology and society are evolving way faster than businesses can naturally adapt to. And I mean, this is both a threat and a possibility, of course. So how will investments meet consumers or the employee? What kind of behavior, values, expectations and change do we need to see? And he talks a lot about the need of sort of new leadership and new business models. Unfortunately, what we can see is that there is less and less relevance online. I mean, I think you're all pretty familiar with the feeling that if you scroll or you look in your Instagram feed, you feel that everyone is leading a much better life than you actually do. Everyone has a fabulous vacation. All their Monday dinners are like delicious. They have better looking boyfriends and girlfriends. I mean, that's the thing, and it's affecting very, very early ages right now. I mean, I think all is affected, but something is really, really wrong here. And so this is our new social currency. It's a status symbol as well. Also, what we can find out is there's a shorter attention span. In US, they did research on people ordering an Uber, and if the waiting time was more than 5 minutes, they would be, oh, I can't wait anymore, and switch and order a Lyft. And 5 minutes, just think about it, like 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, 5 minutes is like a normal time you have to spend in your life. But this is all the apps are creating this sort of stressed feeling that you can't really wait. There's also fear of missing out. I think this one on the right-hand corner down there is a pretty good example. You can actually buy a shower drape where you can have all your devices so you can be connected at all times. We have these, this is a pavement from China. So there's one lane for the people using smartphones. So just to make sure that they are not hit by other pedestrians. And then we have the other one here is from Belgium or Amsterdam, yeah. And this is also a way of doing, like, if you can't really bother to raise your head when you're crossing a road, there's this digital thing that can solve it for you. So we're entering an era where we sort of walk and talk totally out of control. This is, and also one example which I found pretty interesting from Brian was he was working for a foundation trying to raise money for a very good cause. And he did a huge campaign on social media, and at the end of the day, when he started to look at the results, he saw that they didn't really, they hadn't really received as much money as they had hoped for to build this cancer clinic. But what he found out was that a lot of people retweeted instead of giving a donation. So he started phoning up those guys and it's like, hey, we're building this cancer clinic and we're a little bit short of cash and, really, appreciate if you could help. And the answer he got from quite a few of the people was actually, yeah, but I retweeted and I have a couple of thousand followers. So in the end, he got loads of retweets, but no cash. And you can't really, a brick is a brick if you build a house and you need cash to buy those. And so this is also one of the more sort of, I don't know, a little bit scary, I find it.
So who has the courage to step up? We were longing for like a seminar with, I don't know, an investigative journalist that actually put like Facebook and Google on the spot, but that never happened. Everybody was sort of like dancing around this problem, and I think people, we're going to talk about what people were saying that maybe weren't a part of the problem, but the guys actually creating this system were not really addressing it at South by. One person that was really talking about it was Chelsea Manning, and she's an activist and a hacker. And she said that we need to think about the consequences of the algorithms we write. Like I was talking about before, the incentives and the how long you have to wait for something before it shows, like how we're hacking our brains. Before she was at the United States Army, she was working at Starbucks. And so she was helping them with algorithms for their rewards program, like understanding when you need to get your Frappuccino coupon to actually go buy it. So she was writing that algorithm and it worked really well. And then she thought, well, I want to do something else with my life. So she joined the army and she went to Iraq, where she was helping the US Army understand with algorithms where they should bomb what city to make the most damage. Which she's like, that's the exact same algorithm that I used. But you just put it in a completely different situation. And I mean, absolutely, that's the extreme, but we need to understand like what algorithms are out there and what they can do when they come in the wrong hands. Talking about wrong hands, fake news was of course like a huge subject, and this is also a part of this deep wrongness, like what happened to like actually spreading the truth and the real words, and instead we got this fake news situation. Bernie Sanders said, he was like, suddenly we're discussing things we had long since labeled as truths. He's actually like having discussions, he's like, I'm having discussions today with people like, did the Holocaust actually happen? He's like, really? I thought we established that like long ago, but now we're actually talking about it again. And Brian Solis was also talking about like truth is now open for interpretation, which is like a really weird mindset to have and a really weird era to be in. And I think I mean, we don't care if it's fake. All you Swedish readers, I don't know, this is a photo of a screenshot or something, so it's pretty bad quality. But this is a Facebook post where a person has written, like shared an article, and it says, Alva, 9 years old, had an iPhone shell with the Swedish flag on in school. She got detention. So this person shares this post, and then there's someone who comments, she's like, well, that's a fake news article. It's not for real. And then she answers, I don't care that it's fake, it's fucked up anyways. Like, but that's counterproductive, that's not the same thing. And I mean, I think we see those things, this happening a lot, and you're like, how could people ever do that? Don't they understand that it's fake? How could you share it? Like, what is that comment? But then I don't have to go much further than to like talk to my mom. And she shared this photo on her Instagram when Trump, like shortly after Trump was elected. And he says, if I were to run, I'd run as a Republican. They're the dumbest group of voters in the country. They believe anything on Fox News. I could lie and they'd still eat it up. I bet my numbers would be terrific. People Magazine, 1998. Have you guys seen this? Yes. Do you know that it's fake? Yeah, like half of you. So, I mean, she shared this and I saw it and I was like, oh wow, that's weird. And then I saw that it was fake. So I told her, I'm like, just so you know, it's fake. She's like, I don't care, he could have said it. And I can really relate to that sentiment because like, yeah, he could have said this, but he didn't. And that's the difference. So we need to like understand that even if we're like, I would never share that, maybe I would share this. And as Marita mentioned before, fake news spreads faster than truth on the Twitter. That's so people like to share what they think will make them look cool and or knowledgeable. And the weird thing is that even if it turns out that you're spreading false news, like somebody retweets and goes, you know, it's false, and then they like show you the origin of the false news, it doesn't take away the sensation of still feeling knowledgeable and cool. You're like, oh, damn it, it was fake. Anyways, you're like happy. So this is also like dopamine for the brain. And also this has like turned out to be that the intensity of how people feel about something becomes the measurement of how important it is. So we're really like measuring news from how much emotion it evokes instead of like, is it true? How many people does it affect? I mean, all the journalistic rules. And instead we're just going for like, do I feel something when I see this? People were talking about this a lot. The Daily Show had a conversation that was named Real Fake News Never Stops, where they were really talking about how they create like their program, and that it's not about the actual 1 hour show in the evening. It's really about like 24-hour content creation where they look at fake news and create something new out of that.
They were super happy about the Trump administration because they got so much content out of it.
Yeah, they're like, this is the prime time for us. And they really said that, you know, you have to follow the evil side for them, Breitbart and Fox, etc., because it's important if you want to get the whole picture. Like I was saying, you need to see like the other side, but then also reflect on what you're doing from your side. And Ezra Klein, again, he was talking about that the people who agree with you won't fact check what you say. So there's like a lot of great instruments today that you can fact check things. Like in Sweden, we have Viralgranskaren, for example. But the problem is that if I want to agree on a piece of fake news, I won't go and fact check it. That's not how it works. And Simone Sanders was talking about that 31% of young people get their news from Facebook. And again, young people, I think that's American young people. And this is really a place where you're self-selecting to not engage with people who don't talk about the things that you agree on. So it's like we're building this system where we always get the same kind of news and the same kind of thoughts that we already agreed on.
So there is hope, though. But I think we need to show some courage. I mean, I think the overarching theme in South by Southwest was pretty dark. I mean, it was about gun control, American issues, about dreamers, and all those topics. But there's this guy, and this was a pretty hilarious thing because this is a very, very well orchestrated PR coup done by Elon Musk. He wasn't in the ordinary program, and in the morning everyone received a bulletin in their South by Southwest app saying that Mr. Elon Musk is hosting. There's an interview session at the big amphitheater. Come get your tickets early in the morning and we'll give you coffee as well. So we went out, of course, as everyone else, and the queue was everyone, you know, literally everyone who attended South by Southwest wanted to get those tickets. So the queue was like around the block. So we started walking, and then we were like, you know, this is not going to happen. And if we stand in that line, we're going to miss all the other seminars, and especially Amy Webb, who is like a very, very good futurist, and that would be a shame to waste that. So we didn't go, but in the end, we got tickets anyway. We saw Amy Webb, got a ticket, went to the amphitheater. Elon Musk was like a rock star 1 hour late,
Nerd
as you should, if you are in that position. And this is a lousy picture, but literally everyone in that amphitheater, when he entered the stage, were like treating him like he was like some kind of rock star from the 70s. People were like, oh, even media, there was a lot of media attending, even journalists got totally crazy. And I think Elon Musk didn't pick the timing, 11 at 12 o'clock daytime, for that wasn't a coincidence. I think he really wanted to measure his powers, because at that spot you have the best speakers, Bernie Sanders, Amy Webb, you know, all the people that people are queuing up to see. He just wanted to have a longer queue, and he got it. The whole session was, I think, it wasn't really so much it was an interview, but not a real interview, because the guy who did the interview is the producer of that film where he shoots up the Tesla to Mars. And he's also the co-producer of Westworld. So it was more of a chat where they sort of talked about stuff that Elon Musk wanted to talk about, positioning Tesla, positioning himself. He said one thing, there's a quote, when asked why he's doing what he's doing, because undeniably, I mean, he has, I mean, I think you can like him or not, or dislike him, but he has actually made the process and sort of put the pressure on other automotive industries to produce electric cars. So, I mean, that's a really good thing. And his quote is, life can't be about solving one miserable thing after another. There have to be things that make you glad to wake up in the morning, and concepts like electric cars and space travel certainly qualify for me. And asked why he's doing it, he's very humble, so he says, I'm doing this because I want to save the planet. And I think it's part genuine, and I think also, I mean, he makes a lot of references to the Shackleton ads, you know, when he was trying to recruit people to the expeditions. It's like, you know, no money, you will freeze to death probably, you know, but join my team. And I mean, he has this sort of thing. He also sang in the end, by the way. He did some kind of American folk country song, and people loved it. So there you go.
Good on them. And another huge, I mean, topic was Trump, of course. And if I would have been a Trump supporter at this year's South by, I would not have felt that welcome, I must say. Like, people weren't really hiding it. I think the Daily Show said, Donald Trump is so wrong for this job. And that was their sort of analysis of the situation. But what the politicians were talking about was that you really, really need to get involved. So Bernie Sanders was out touring the country, and then South by was one of his stops, where he said, you know, you have to stand up, you have to fight back, and then you have to run for office. You have to get in there and try to change things. And Simone Sanders was talking a lot about, like, you need a credible spokesperson for your movement. You can have a great movement, you can have a great cause, but if you don't have different spokespeople that, like, can connect to different people or groups, then you're not going to get anywhere. And she said for the Democrats to win the next election, they need a black female in one of the top positions. Maybe not as a presidential candidate, but someone there in the top that the other black women can relate to, because if you get the black women's vote, then you win the election. So she was like, it really needs to get the representation going. And representation was a huge theme on a lot of the talks. Melinda Gates was talking about that for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, they're really talking about representation in the workforce going forward and starting different programs. Because barriers and biases make you question if you belong. The workforce has evolved, but not the workplace. So she was like, how can we get more spokespeople out there to show that there can be a different, like, way of working? And of course, since this is America, they were talking a lot about paid parental leave and how you can make that a bigger thing, which is, I mean, not such a big problem here in Sweden, but we have different issues that we could certainly work for. And Lena Dunham was talking about that it's important that women get paid to tell their story. And she really had the angle that there's a lot of publications and different, like, stories being put out there, but advertisers should look to actually promoting and putting their ads in those kind of publications and not just the mainstream media. And Barry Jenkins, director of Moonlight. How many have seen Moonlight? Yeah, great movie, right? If you haven't seen it, I can really recommend it. And he was there talking about the whole process behind that movie and why he wanted to create it and his own personal journey. And he really wanted people to feel that you're right to want it right damn now. So he was talking about we need to get more people out there and more people telling their story so that even more people can understand that their story is important and should be put out there. And that it's so important that it also should be able to win an Academy Award. And when it comes to fake news, the solution that they were talking a lot about was that traditional media should really focus on being traditional media and creating in-depth articles and great journalism, because that will actually be the way to survive. They've seen that traditional media has, like, the number of prenumeranter,
subscribers.
Thank you. Has increased dramatically after Trump got elected, because people want to know, like, okay, so this is a traditional newspaper, I can rely on this. And also, Apple News is going this way. They were talking about their news app, which is not about what's most popular and the newest information. It's really like when you log into it, you get maybe 5 articles. Like, these are the 5 in-depth articles you should read today, which is a more curated and quality-focused content. YouTube was there and said that now on all conspiracy videos, they're going to have a Wikipedia link, so that you see the conspiracy theory, but then you also get a link to Wikipedia to read more about it. And I mean, Wikipedia can also be, you know, changed, but I think it's a good way to sort of take one small step, or at least acknowledge what's happening on their platform. Reddit was there and was talking a lot about censorship, and as Steve Huffman said, who is the co-founder of Reddit, and then he left and then he came back because he wanted to change how dark Reddit had become. He wants it more to be a platform for discussion and people creating things together or joining around a subject or a topic. And so that's what they're really trying to create now, that they want it to be a platform for discussion. So when it's just like putting fake news out there, then they're going to be able to take that out, because they have new sort of algorithms and policies that they can put in place. So it's not just free anymore. And then of course Facebook is doing things also. You can, when there's news on Facebook, you can read about the publication and you can read about the author. But as I said before, if you're not like conspiracy thinking that this is fake news, you're not going to read about the author. You're not going to question the news. So we need a different kind of solution. And then the new tech. So what if we are trying to not fix the internet, but like completely rewrite it from a female perspective? That's what Whitney Wolfe, founder and CEO of Bumble, is trying to do. And she was co-founder of Tinder, but she left Tinder after sexual harassment. And she's in a huge legal, what do you say, with them. But she founded Bumble, which is a dating app from the start, where it's a female-first dating app. So the women always have to take the first step. And also they've implemented lots of rules there, being that you can't have a profile pic or any pictures with guns, because they know that that feeling, and that like lots of women and have experienced domestic violence, so they don't want that kind of behavior shown on their platform. And she says that, yeah, of course we're gonna like lose a number of people because we have these rules that you have to oblige to. But she's like, I don't want them on this platform then. If they can't like be like, I have to show my gun in my profile pic. She's like, really? Do you really need to? So she's actually aiming for fewer followers, but the right kind of followers or users. And then Bumble has evolved to Bumble BFF, so you can like find your friends there, and Bumble Biz, which is where you can connect to build your network. It's not like upload your CV, so it's not LinkedIn style, but still just social network, but taking it business-wise. And then Chelsea Manning again, who said that we software developers should have a code of ethics that transcend our bosses. This, I think, is really, really interesting. Like, all doctors have a code of ethics that transcend their bosses. Is it that impossible to actually have software developers and coders also like have a code of ethics that everybody's like, yes, this is something we all can agree on. We will not use our algorithms in this way. We will not change this sort of behavior. We will be open about how we are hijacking people's brains. I don't know what would be in there, but it's a very like interesting question to take forward.
I mean, a lot of this debate also ended up, I mean, in America, there's a lot of digital detox camps, and at South by Southwest for sure, there was like meditation spaces, room to breathe. There was yoga, hip hop yoga, just to make it spice it up a little bit. And also, I mean, this app is not new, Moments, but it's a lot of speakers actually mention it. And I don't know if you tried Moments. Did anyone here have? Yeah? I mean, it's pretty interesting to see how often you actually touch your smartphone. Well, how often, you know, you get the statistics like Facebook 175 times a day, Instagram 230 times. It's really slow.
Mind opener.
Yeah, it's a mind opener for sure. So I think a good quote is again from Brian. He's very quote friendly, Brian's always. Understand your relationship with your device. And I think we all need to start doing that. And I think people in the industry as well need to sort of have that in mind when they create apps or algorithms.
Yeah, and just overall, like going forward, we all need to understand, as you said, our relationship and everything, but we all need to have the courage to sort of stop and not just follow this dream and be like, what is happening? Why is this happening? And we need to change it. You need to have the courage to actually do something. Chelsea Manning said that, what is the biggest challenge going forward? And she said, well, our complacency is dangerous. The fact that we don't care is dangerous. So we need to care going forward.
That's it for us. Thank you.